All right, on page 9 in your notebooks, we're going to take some notes. So at the end of this lesson, you're going to need to go to the table of contents page and label line 9 integers and absolute value. So page 9 is titled Integers and Absolute Value. To begin our lesson with absolute value, we have to talk about the concept of opposites. And opposites is a mathematical term you've been working on for quite a long time. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 on a number line. Right? Opposites are the numbers that are the same distance from 0 on a number line, but in opposite directions. If one's to the right of the 0, then its opposite is to the left of 0. Again, they're numbers that are the same distance from 0 on a number line, but in opposite directions. Plainly put, one is positive and one is negative. One is positive, one is negative. So let's talk about it mathematically. If I gave you -5 and its opposite, +5, you would prove that they're opposites by drawing a number line. 0's in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces from 0. And -5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces from 0. They're the same distance from 0, but in opposite directions. 5 is to the right, -5 is to the left. It works with decimals too. Zero's in the middle. 2.5's right here. And -2 5/10 is on this side. They're on the right and the left in opposite directions. One is positive, one is negative. It's 1, 2.5 spaces from 0, 1, 2.5 spaces from 0. They're numbers that are in the same distance from 0 on a number line, but in opposite directions. None of this is new. This is all common sense to you. But we're going to use this common sense, we're going to use this prior knowledge for absolute value. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Absolute value is written as 2 bars, 2 parallel lines, and then a value in the middle. And I'm going to put X because that could stand for anything. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Mathematically speaking, distance is always positive. absolute value is always going to be positive. Because distance is always positive. 4 is 4 spaces from 0. I understand in football you can lose 5 yards, it's -5. But the amount you're losing is 5 yards. Distance is always positive. Measuring negative distance is impossible. I cannot go backwards -10 feet. I can go backwards 10 feet, but I cannot go backwards -10 feet. I cannot go back in time and go back 10 feet. Right? It's science fiction. I get it. You can argue it. But right now, it's still science fiction. No one has invented a way to go back in time yet. So let's talk examples of scientific notation. Let's write down these examples. And watch out for this last one, because it's going to be the one that tries to trick us. So let's talk basics. Let's draw our number line, skip a few spaces and draw your number line. And 0 goes in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's our number line, plain and simple. And if I start with -3, I want to find the distance a number is from 0. So here's -3, so the absolute value of -3 is 3 spaces. It's 3 spaces from 0. If I wanted to find the absolute value of 4, I could find 4 on a number line, and I could count. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 spaces from 0. If I was going to find the absolute value of 0, I'd put it on a number line. And 0 is 0 spaces from 0. And if you look, all of these are positive values. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Distance is always positive. It's how many spaces it is from 0. Now this last one is tricky. It's looking for the absolute value of -4, but then it has a negative sign in front. That negative sign means the opposite. So I'm going to find the absolute value of -4. One, 2, 3, 4. The absolute value of -4 is 4. However, it wants the opposite of the absolute value of -4. Since that negative sign's on the outside, my answer is going to be negative. This is the only time you end up with a negative value. The absolute value of -4 is 4. That does not change. It's a positive distance because distance is always positive. However, since there's a negative sign in front, that negative sign belongs to the answer. So my answer to this question is -4. You may be seeing absolute value inside of math problems. So when you encounter a math problem, you still use order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division from left to right. Addition, subtraction from left to right. You're going to treat absolute value like parentheses. Meaning, do absolute value first. Pretend it's parentheses, right? We sometimes say instead of parentheses, we call them grouping symbols, and absolute value is a grouping symbol. Here's what I mean. If I had the problem 14 minus the absolute value of 6 minus 8, I'm going to treat these like parentheses. I'm going to do them first. So I'm going to do 6 minus 8 first, which is -2. Now I have the absolute value of -2. The absolute value of -2 is 2 spaces from 0. Then I have minus 14. And 14 minus 2 is 12. If I did another one, if I had 10 minus the absolute value of 13 plus 2, I do inside my parentheses or inside my grouping symbols, so my absolute value, 13 plus 2 is 15. Write down the rest of the problem. The absolute value of 15 is 15, because 15 is 15 spaces from 0. And 10 minus 15 is -5. Let's do one more. The absolute value of -10 plus the absolute value of 8 minus the absolute value of -2. So let's do the absolute value of -10 first, and that's 10 spaces from 0, plus the absolute value of 8 is 8, minus the absolute value of -2 is 2. 10 plus 8 is 18, minus 2 is 16. Don't forget, now that we're at the end of our notes, to go back to page 9 and write down on line 9, right? Go back to your table of contents. Line 9 is integers and absolute value.